roaddog.com and rocking the bank with you at 9 a.m. this morning. We're passing out $1,000 keywords. Every weekday, have your first one at 9 a.m., so we'll do that at 9. It's Tuesday, so also at 9, we will do New Tier Tuesday. This is where we take a listen to some new stuff and we vote accordingly on it. We bar no musical format for this segment here. Some people enjoy that. Other people cannot stand it. And that's okay. I'm perfectly all right with that. What I have for you now this week is new Toby Mac, Nothing Sweeter Than It. They were voted not a turd. Mint is the name of the project, and their new song is called Sand. One last breath, little Creed there. Kind of sounds like that a little bit. See what else we get. I wouldn't have known that's a local just by first listen, and that's a compliment, I believe, right? Like, when you can tell, it's like, all right, this came from Fulton, that's when it's like, oh, dude, this is a little rough, right? But, like, I don't know that for sure there. take a listen to the rest of that new mint. That song is called Sand. Again, your local artist for New Tour Tuesday. You could let your opinions be known using that microphone talkback button on iHeartRadio when you listen that way. Also, texting in is easy at 330-450-7625. The Hawk Tuah girl will not die. This thing will not die. Now, I knew when I heard the audio, I was like, she's going to be around a little bit. Like, right? She's funny. She's talking sex. It's gone viral. I knew we were going to be into it for a little while here.
What's one move in bed that makes a man go crazy every time?
Oh, you gotta give him that Hawk Tuah and spit on that thing.
So many people still talking about it, including herself. We have more stuff from this young lady on the way. She's been out there selling merch. From what I understand, it's been going pretty well. And of course, I mean, there's pet rock people out there. So if you didn't think a Hawk Tuah, trucker hat was going to sell, I think you misunderstood America, right? So she's out there selling merch. Apparently, we're getting a documentary about her. And there may be a reality show about her. I don't quite understand the documentary. How long can that possibly be? So, Haley, what happened? I was walking down the street, hammered. A guy asked me a question, and I answered. Which, by the way, those interviewers, as they're being called, those interviewers are furious about the fact that she's famous, and they're not. Which does bring us back to something else I've been saying with the internet for a while now. There's a problem for content creators on the internet. There's a problem for that for you now. And we'll get to what that is, and we will do that coming up at 8 o'clock inside that conversation. Also, UBI, another billionaire, has come forward and said, yeah, universal basic income is actually going to do more harm than good. Is he just trying to protect his money, or could he be right? We'll take a look at that in the 7 o'clock hour this morning here on the Stansbury Show.
If you leave, you'll miss this on the Stansbury Show.
So I just got done reading this article about the Olympic Games in Paris. Apparently we're getting started here at the end of July. And the sports that are in didn't shock me, but a sport they took out kind of did. So let's get to that here next on Rock 106.9. Get your team signed up for the Stansbury Cup. Our golf outing is on the 24th. You know, a golf tournament you could actually win. Your sign-up sheet online at WRQK.com. There's also a link for it at my Facebook page, The Stansbury Show. We were telling you that the Hawk Tuah girl apparently going to have a reality show coming and a documentary. Now, I'm not surprised she's doing stuff. Like I kept saying, I was like, you tell me she shows up in season 2 of Shane Gillis's Tires on Netflix. Are you really going to be shocked by that? I was like, I wouldn't, right? Like, I understand. Now, maybe by the time a second season of that comes out, you know what I mean? Like the heat on her has died down, but it doesn't seem to be. Not yet, anyway. We kind of opened the show talking about that a little bit. Heather had been listening. I appreciate it. She texted in at 330-450-7625. And apparently this was spotted in Alliance. It looks like, I don't know if that's a tow truck or just like a flatbread type truck, but this guy has Hawk Tuah there written right across the windshield of the truck there, so you'll see it in your rear view mirror. That coming out of Alliance. I appreciate that, Heather. Thank you very much. It's pretty funny. And I'm not surprised at all. Right? I am surprised it's been still going on this long. When I first heard the audio, I'll be honest, I heard it the day before I played it. I heard it. I was like, wait. Sometimes you see something, you're like, get it on the air right now. And then other times you're like, wait. Just give it one more day. Allow a few more people to understand what it is and then run it, right? And that was kind of one of those things. I knew she was going to break wide the moment I saw it. I was like, oh, okay. She's talking about a thing married guys tell me they never get it home, right? I was like, and she's going to get them all whipped up into a fervor over it, right? And she kind of has. She's kind of done that. People were talking about, oh my God, that's like the worst thing for a father and all this. The people were saying all kind of crazy stuff. It's like in the same week, a woman took her top off at a sporting event. Her bare body went viral. Nobody's talking about how she's like a dad's worst thing. This woman said something a little crazy. And all of a sudden she became like, oh my God, I don't know if you know what I mean? It's like, this woman's story is interesting. I think that she knows what to do here, right? Like, the clock is ticking. She knows it. So sell the trucker hats, make the documentary, get the money, because you got all the negative about being, I guess, famous, if we're going to call her that. because people are stopping her everywhere she goes. People are probably harassing the family, right? So get the money, get the paper. Like, I understand that. That makes all the sense in the world. I'm just surprised it's still going on at the heat, at the level it is right now. I will also often tell you guys that you can use the microphone talkback button on iHeartRadio when you listen live that way. This listener, whose name I do have, but I'm not going to give it to you because I don't know if he's joking or not about this. But this came in. Let's take a listen to this.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about this.
I guess it's time for like then.
Sorry. Am I supposed to think he's kidding? Because that sounds, I mean, I don't smoke crack. I don't know.
E-meth. It's not meth. It's electronic.
It's not meth. It's electronic. I don't know what that is. I know about the vaping of the marijuana. You know, being a marijuana user occasionally from time to time. I've been known to dabble, right? So like I've done that. Literally, like so I've done that. I know what that is. Like I know all about that. I didn't know e-meth was a thing. I can't imagine that is good. I mean, I know we got Adderall. That's not e-meth. That's like, well, you know, white coat meth essentially is what that is. You know, trust the science, right? And all of that is with Adderall. But I didn't. Somebody's gonna have to get me filled in on what e-meth is all about. I don't know a thing about that. I did see this morning. We have the Olympics starting at the end of the month. This in Paris, and apparently breaking, I guess they just call it, is going to make its Olympic debut in Paris. Apparently that will be this summer. It will include one men's and one women's event where 16 B-boys and 16 B-girls, I'm assuming that's the B for breaking there, will go face-to-face in spectacular solo battles, according to the official Olympics website there. Little surprise breakdancing is gendered still in 2024, especially when you start talking about the Olympics, which is not an American event, it's a worldwide event. Right? Athletes will improvise to a DJ's beats using popular breaking moves, including windmills, which involve spinning low to the ground, and then some freezes. That sounds great. You know, I remember back in the day, we started to lower, or at least that's what people were saying, started to lower the standard of what got in as far as like an Olympic sport. I feel like break dancing or breaking is, it's pretty, I mean, dude, speed walking, though, is an Olympic sport, right? So, like, what the old ladies are doing at Belden Village Mall before it opens every Saturday morning, like, if that's an Olympic sport, then breaking can be. I mean, like, look, here's the thing. You know what people like me will snicker and we'll look down our nose at that? For all the money in the world, I don't think I could make breaking look halfway decent right now. You know what I mean? So isn't that at least somewhat on par with other Olympic activities? Because like I can't do any of those either, right? And so I kind of feel like that's kind of one of those situations here. Surfing is coming back. That's been recently introduced and it's coming back. And I understand it. I do. It's an unconventional, what we consider sport, but it is very difficult. And every time I see surfing done well, jealousy will ensue. Partially due to a woman once cheated on me with a professional surfer. That one stung like a bitch, dude. Like I'm still, dude, I haven't talked to that woman like 15, 20 years. I'm still mad at her about it. Like I never got over that one. Dude, I used to call him her PacSun boyfriend, all kinds of stuff, dude. Like I got so mad. But surfing is impressive. Like that's tough. So like I understand that. Skateboarding is in the Olympics. Now look, if you're gonna put surfing in there, then street surfing, I guess right, you're gonna have to make the same kind of arguments. I'm a climbing fan. I'm not like a person who will go and do it, but like a little rock wall occasionally, this and that. I'm not necessarily an outdoor climber, but they're going to bring that back into it. Sport climbing, they say, is similar to rock climbing. It includes men and women's categories there. Apparently in 2024, sport climbing will look a little different compared to the last time it was in the Olympics. That was at Tokyo. Competitors received a combined score for their performances in 3 disciplines: lead, which involves scaling a wall with ropes; bouldering, which is climbing a series of walls in as few attempts as humanly possible; and then speed, a race just straight up. Usually people had 2 strong disciplines and 1 weaker. That's Canadian climber Sean McColl. Now there are 2 competitions, a combined lead and bouldering event and a separate speed event, which I guess that kind of makes sense. As I could understand somebody being a little bit better at the speed versus the bouldering. That makes all the sense in the world. And I understand the Olympic body going, hey, is there any way to draw this out a little bit? Like, can we get a little bit more out of this? That makes all the sense in the world. Now, I also see kayaking is going in, which I kind of like that being an Olympic sport. Because, like, what I think of an Olympian is if some stuff goes down, you're going to be able to use your body and your skills to kind of, like, overcome some stuff. And getting into like a one-man boat and like, you know, taking yourself down a river and not dying, it would be a part of that, I would imagine. So I'm okay with it. I'm all right with all of these sports. I don't have a problem with any of them. The one that was surprising wasn't something that got added. It was something that was taken away. Karate, they said, made a historic Olympic debut, that at the Tokyo Games, but now short-lived. It's not coming back for Paris. And a lot of people are confused. And I would be one of these people that's really confused. And here's why. Again, it's not an American event, the Olympics. It's worldwide. And the UFC, not that karate is all UFC, it's not, right? But the UFC is so massively popular worldwide, including in the United States, that any martial art whatsoever being a part of the Olympics would make sense to me. Now, maybe what they're doing is taking karate out because of the argument I'm using and saying, well, moving forward, what we really need to figure out is how do we work more of these, you know, martial arts training, like jiu-jitsu? How do we work more of these into what we're doing so it's not just solely karate based? Rock the bank with me at 9 a.m. I'll pass out that first $1,000 keyword of the day. We'll continue those throughout the day here on 106.9. Teresa has the second at 10 a.m. Also at 9, New Tour Tuesday, featuring your local artist, Mint. And their new song is called Sam. All right, I did not see this until this morning, but apparently this has been going on since sometime yesterday, and I must have just missed it. You don't see everything. So I'll thank Eric for sending this in. Because I had not seen it. Apparently, Elton John has now been accused of urinating in public. Apparently, he could not hold it while shopping for what TMZ has called sneakers. This over in France. Apparently, he had relieved himself in a plastic bottle in the middle of the store. This, according to the guy that runs the store. Let me see here. Ryan Sukar, owner of Sugar Kicks, that in France, tells TMZ that Elton came into his shop Monday afternoon with his 2 sons and a bodyguard and asked if there was a public restroom. When Elton was told there was no toilet around, the shop owner said the singer turned to a security guard and asked for a bottle. Then he took a few steps away from the other shoppers and began taking a leak in... I don't buy it. I don't buy it. There's zero chance. I don't buy this. I'm sorry. Elton John knows he's Elton John. Now, when you gotta go, you gotta go. Right? But what would be better for Elton John, let's be honest, is for him to just pee his pants. Put a bag or something in front of your way and then get to the limo, get back to the hotel, change your clothes. Versus like, hey, there's other people in this store and I'm just gonna go off in the corner and urinate in this bottle. Apparently, he doesn't have the aim there either, as the shop owner is telling people that apparently Elton John got some pee on the floor and asked for a security towel, or asked security rather for a towel so he could clean it up. Shop owner claims, I was shocked and frustrated that a customer would take, you know, a pee in my store like that. First time seeing it in his 3 years running the business. I'm sorry, I just don't know if I buy it. Now, celebrities have long been known to think that they can do whatever they want, wherever they want. And in the 70s and 80s, when Elton John was known to be, and I mean hammered or completely laced up cocaine 24 hours a day, maybe. But that's not who Elton John is today, right? I'm just supposed to believe that in an open store. First, I'm supposed to believe this, that the shop owner knows it's Elton John and doesn't allow him to use the bathroom. I can't imagine the guy doesn't have a bathroom business that he uses throughout the day. I can't imagine that. If maybe it's true, I don't know. A lot of things are different. I mean, London doesn't even use air conditioning, for crying out loud. I don't know what's happening in France, right? And I know a lot of people thinking it's illegal. You cannot be open and not have a bathroom. It's like, well, for customers only, you can do that. But you're talking American stuff there. I have no idea what Paris does. I have no idea what France does, right? But if you knew it was Elton John, I don't think you're telling him no. I thought at first maybe what's happening here is you got a young store owner who didn't grow up with Elton John, doesn't really know, is like, yeah, dude, I heard my grandma talk about him once or twice, but like, I don't know. And maybe he just and denied him. Isn't it just as easy for Elton John to walk out of the store, walk into another place, ask them where the bathroom is and use it? The only pushback against that argument I can think of is this. Now, not that this would be the only one, it's just the only one I've thought of so far, is once you're in a place, you're in it. And I can walk out of a store, walk across the street, walk into the store with no problem, and so can you. Elton John, maybe not. And so maybe what you're thinking is, I'm already in here. I don't want to run the risk of running into more people, having to take 10 more photos before I get to what I need to do and all of this. Maybe, but I feel like I'm reaching to the far end of the earth there. To come up with a risk, like, all right, I'll wait. You mean to tell me he's out shopping with his teenage sons? This is the only place they were going, was the shoe store? Those kids were getting $200,000 worth of merchandise that day, and we all know it. They were going to hit 9,000 stores. Elton John was going to be able to pee. You're not going to convince me if homie's just in the middle of a shoe store with the candle in the wind. The Stansbury Cup, our golf outing on the 24th. That at Raintree Golf and Event Center. We'll see you guys there. Get your team signed up today. That at WRQK.com. There's also the Facebook page, The Stansbury Show. There's a link for it there as well. Well, thank Eric again for sending this in this morning. Elton John now being accused of urinating in public. This in a shoe store over in France. Apparently, he was taking his sons shopping. The claim is he was in a store. This by the store owner, by the way. He was in the store, asked for a bathroom. The store owner goes, yeah, I don't really have one of those for patrons and all that. And then claims that and then went to the bathroom, like, in the store. He said there was other people in the area. I said, I'm sorry, I don't buy it. Now, I don't know if the shop owner has a bathroom for himself to use all day while he's working. I would assume yes. And I would also assume that if Elton John is like, hey, can I use your bathroom? You're like, yeah, for sure you can, right? Now, maybe I'm wrong. I guess I could be wrong. But I just don't buy it. I just don't see it, right? Dwayne had been listening and said, wait a minute, dude, we're talking Elton John here. So he's got the bodyguard, he's got his kids there. He goes, if you really have to go that bad to where it's like, I'm going to go do this in this bottle. It's like, aren't you going back out to the limo where the windows are smoked and right, like all of that, and then doing it there? I think once you're outside the store, you go into another store. Now, we talked about that, and I said, well, all right, I'm maybe minimizing how annoying it can be to be famous, right? Because nothing's just 10 steps that way when you're that famous. Everything's an hour, because it's like, oh my God, Elton John, Rocket Man, right? Like, everybody's going crazy. And so, maybe then you go back to the limo. The only pushback I have on going back to the limo to relieve yourself would be what? That urinating, I'm a man. Right? I have urinated in plastic bottles plenty of times in, unique situations. Never in a store in public like that. By the way, I would never do that here. Out of fear that I am well enough known to be like, dude, the morning idiot at Rock 106.9 is urinating in the middle of my store. Like, I feel like in Canton, I may be recognizable enough where it's like, dude, you ain't getting away with that. Right? Like, that ain't happening. Somebody somewhere's going to be like, I know who that is. Right? Elton John, I don't know if you've heard, he has surpassed my celebrity. Yeah, by a couple of good stretches there, right? Couple of good times. So I'm just not sure I buy that angle. And I just don't see it. Now, Jessica brings up an interesting point here. And she says, Stansbury, Elton John is 77. Maybe he is dealing with some sort of incontinence issue. And what the store owner is doing here is exaggerating the story for attention and exposure. I work in senior services. It's a real problem. Okay, I did not think of that. He is older, you know, and they don't put like the adult diapers on the shelf for people my age. They are for him and my mother. That's kind of who they're for. Now, I'll tell you what's interesting about this is that we don't think of celebrities as going through regular life problems like that, you know? But just because you wrote a couple of great songs, and Bernie Taupin wrote them, but, you know, outside of that, doesn't mean you don't have to deal with real life. You have money to deal with real life. It may be easier for you to be dealing with real life problems, sure, because of the money and the access and all that, fair. It doesn't mean you get to avoid them. But that's interesting, Jessica, because like I never put it through that filter, even though I know how old he is, because I'm like, you're going, he's famous, you know. But like, if sometimes we forget that it's like that they still deal with things that you and I deal with, that your grandparents are dealing with. Taylor brought up an interesting point in this too. He goes, you know, Stansbury, the point of this story that caught my attention is he said this store owner, and again, he's selling like shoes, and again, like young shoes for young trendy people. It's called Magic Kicks or something. And he said, you know, when you were telling us the details of that story, you told us that the shop owner's been in business about 3 years or under. He said, to me, isn't this the shop owner going, I've only been open 3 years. Let's make sure I have a smashing success here. Let's get talked about. Because the TikTokers in the area will at least go to the store that day, be like, this is where Elton John peed on the floor, right? And then next thing you know, if you sell 10 pairs of shoes, it'll probably be more than that. But whatever you sell that you didn't sell yesterday is going to be a coin in the fountain, right? Like that's how he's going to look at that. So you're probably not wrong. I'll tell you another reason why I'm a little suspicious that what we're dealing with here isn't on the up and up. I kept saying, I don't know if this business owner has a bathroom that he has in the establishment for him to use all day. I would assume that you do. What I know, I don't know. What we can safely assume would be this, that there is some type of security inside said store. Whether it be the front of it, inside, but if you're videotaping the front part of the store, you're videotaping the inside. There's a big phrase people like to use on the internet all the time when anybody says, oh, this happened, or this person said this to me, or this, or this, or this, or this. And people always respond by saying this. Pics, or it didn't happen. Eric sent me the story this morning that he did at my Facebook page. He found it at TMZ, who's known to be salacious and showing the video whether they should be or not. They're kind of what they're in. That's what the 3 Mile Zone is all about. That's what Harvey's all about, right? That if there were video to be had, they would have it. And if you had Elton John on tape, there's zero chance you haven't sold that yet. So I'm going to borrow that phrase from the kids. Pics, or it didn't happen. Feel free to use the microphone talkback button on iHeartRadio to reach your studio. Always textable too at 330-450-7625. This unpleasant now, as we know that 26-year-old Sean Go is accused of murder, abuse of a corpse, and domestic violence. Also now tampering with evidence, this in connection with the alleged homicide involving her. He was issued a $1 million bond while law enforcement questioned him as a suspect in connection with appear in court, or at least it was when Hart was out of the community. Unfortunate to our community, and we like. That's County Sheriff George T. Meyer had said that Wednesday at a press conference. Sheridan's death, known as a domestic violence, is a horrible cycle, and folks that are caught in that cycle need to know that Every parent's worst nightmare right there. I don't want to go overboard, but like, there's a reason why your parents will tell you. Some of you are younger. Be careful who you're hanging out with. Be careful where you go. Be careful what the environment. Right? Married 20 years. Thought you knew somebody. Oh my God. Who the hell have I been living with? Like, that can happen, right? That's every parent's worst nightmare right there. That's the call you never want. You know? That's why when people, this will probably ruffle some feathers, but here we go. It's very popular now when we find out a parent was telling a kid, let's change this behavior. Let's not do this. Let's not go here. Let's not do this. You're controlling them. You're not letting them live their life. Sometimes that's true. And you have overbearing parents who just don't want their kids to do anything, and that can be a problem too. They normally, well, I don't know about normally, but in a lot of cases, they'll just run around and do the exact opposite of what you were trying. That can happen too. But not every parent is refusing to let their child live their truth or whatever the hell is popular now on TikTok. Sometimes what parents are doing is taking years of experience of them having to learn the hard way on something and trying to save you. Doesn't always work. Right? We always think we know. And I don't know what the scenario here was. Maybe this doesn't have anything to do with it. Maybe he wasn't like setting off red flags. But if people in your life are telling you, hey man, I don't know about this. It's not always haterade. It's not always trying, well, I guess what I should say is, yeah, it is trying to restrict your behavior a little bit. Sometimes that's not always the worst idea in the world. Right? Now, I don't want to go down that path because eventually I'm going to get accused of victim blaming, and of course that's not what I'm doing. Like I said, I don't know all the factors of this. It's just I see a lot of people talk about, my dad won't let me go out with my boyfriend and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, sometimes they do get it right. You know what I mean? And what parents don't want is that phone call right there. They'd rather have the phone call of, I need to come home and stay there for a few months. They'd rather have that phone call than this one. It's terrible, man. Absolutely terrible. So he stands trial now, 26 again for domestic violence, tampering with the evidence. My best guess is he ran. I feel like, again, that makes you look guilty. Whether or not you are, that is a different thing. But in the court of public opinion, the moment you run, everybody will have you as guilty. All right, I say this a lot. I don't always talk about what I want to be talking, because that would drive a lot of people away. Sometimes what you have to be discussing, this is the thing though. But politics has gotten really messy in this country. I personally believe we see cult members on both sides of this now. You routinely hear about it with the MAGA cult, right? And I get it. I do. I understand it.